There is a phrase, often referred to as an ancient curse: may you live in interesting times. For American educators, the times are certainly interesting, and the current landscape of public education is undeniably chaotic. For decades, the public school system operated under a single overarching structure. Beginning with the 1965 Elementary and Secondary Education Act, federal mandates tied financial support to strict, uniform state testing requirements. That rigid national structure began to dissolve in 2015. The Every Student Succeeds Act replaced previous legislation with a far less prescriptive approach. The new law intentionally decentralized testing, giving states flexibility to design their own assessment protocols. As states take varied approaches, the resulting data points separate, leaving a localized system where testing metrics are rarely comparable across state borders. The attempt to provide helpful flexibility eliminated the baseline uniformity of American educational data, leaving the system fragmented. Into this already splintered environment arrived a second massive disruption: the COVID-19 pandemic. Schools were forced to adopt a wide array of instructional models overnight. Districts implemented remote learning, hybrid protocols, and varied safety measures based entirely on local decisions. Because students learned under such wildly different conditions, the traditional, standardized historical data used to track their progress became nearly impossible to read. Teachers are now navigating a fractured landscape without the benefit of reliable, state-level guidance to measure student achievement. To operate effectively in this environment, educators require assessment literacy, the technical skill to independently construct, evaluate, and interpret reliable tests. Without a cohesive national standard to rely on, a teacher's own proficiency in educational measurement is the ultimate protection for a student's learning progress. The foundation for this skill set was codified in 2014 with the release of the Standards for Educational and Psychological Testing. This framework outlines three major pillars of assessment design. The framework starts with reliability, consistently producing the same results over multiple administrations. The second pillar is validity, ensuring inferences drawn from test results are accurate. The third is fairness. An assessment must be free of bias, accommodating diverse learners equally. In modern classrooms, fairness extends to strict accessibility requirements. Adhering to digital WCAG standards ensures that all students have equal access to the testing material. Failing to meet criteria for reliability, validity, or fairness doesn't just yield poor data, it actively hinders the entire instructional process. School districts are flooded with commercial, computer-adaptive tests. Administrators frequently purchase these tools, assuming a diagnostic label guarantees useful day-to-day classroom data. When put through the three-pillar framework, many commercial tools fail at the validity gate. They generate broad scores, but offer zero actionable instructional insights. An assessment-literate teacher uses these criteria to actively discard ineffective tools, protecting valuable classroom time. A genuinely useful diagnostic test does one specific thing. It isolates precise learning gaps so the teacher can immediately adjust their lesson plan. A commercial label is no substitute for educational value. Only rigorous teacher evaluation determines if a test is actually worth giving. The reliance on rigid, top-down, standardized testing stems from a different era of education. That era favored summative assessment, the practice of using tests primarily at the end of the academic year to judge and rank schools. Today's classrooms require a different approach, moving away from rigid evaluation toward dynamic adjustment. This is the shift to formative assessment. In this model, a continuous feedback loop exists between how a student performs on a test and how the teacher delivers the instruction. Research consistently demonstrates that using classroom tests formatively to tweak teaching strategies in real time results in significantly higher student achievement. Testing is no longer designed to be a post-mortem judgment. It functions as the primary engine driving daily student growth. Mastering test design is only the internal component of assessment literacy. The final skill is external, translating this complex data for outside stakeholders. Standardized percentiles, grading rubrics, and raw testing data are misunderstood by parents and policymakers. To bridge this gap, educators use specific communication structures. The Parent Talk framework explains how classroom exams relate to grades without technical jargon. Broader testing takeaways provide concise explanations of assessment policy to educate lawmakers and school boards. Educating these outside groups on testing principles requires minimal financial investment, making it one of the most cost-effective school improvement strategies available. Assessment literacy serves as both a defensive filter against poor testing products and an active communication tool that secures community trust. We've moved from an era of unified federal testing mandates into a highly localized, fractured system. Waiting for new systemic overhauls or the perfect commercial product will not solve the immediate problem of unreliable data in the classroom. Ultimately, the immense responsibility for accurate educational accountability now rests squarely on the desk of the individual classroom teacher. In this decentralized environment, mastering the science of educational measurement is an absolute professional requirement.